Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show you a spectacular study. This study is so crazy. Just take a look at this position. There are lots of pawns on the board, 7 pawns on the board for black and 4 pawns for white. Can you find the winning idea for white here? I encourage you to take a second, pause the video, see if you can figure it out. While you're thinking about that, let me quickly also encourage you to subscribe if you have not yet already. Half of the income that I earn in this channel goes directly to charity, so every like, every subscriber helps us out tremendously. Okay, let's look at this puzzle and dive right in. So, first of all, it should be noted there are a lot of pawns on the board. Make sure you understand the direction of the pawns. That's why I put these arrows. It looks like white's kind of in trouble because there's a pawn race, and it looks like white will promote, but black will promote with check. So if you're like me and you think about puzzles, the first thing that crosses your mind is probably an under promotion when it comes to these kinds of things. So maybe your instinct is to play b7 check, and after h2, you think, ooh, I can be really clever and mate them. Not quite. You can check them, but eventually they actually just run away. They just get away, right? It might seem like a lot of nice checks, but it doesn't work. Eventually they run out. You do get a lot of checks, but like I said, they just run out. You can go here, for example. Now what? How are you going to check me? You're not. So, I'm glad you had the impulse, if you did think about that. It's a good idea. So it seems like b7 is the only move that makes any sense, right? It has to be. Well, that's correct. But if you thought about king f2, if you thought about king e2 to kind of preemptively get out of this check, that's a good idea too, but it doesn't quite work. Because if you play this, it's just a little too slow. They can always check you, and then they can force you to move, and eventually you're going to lose to a promotion. So let's look at the actual line here. What is the first move? And then I'll let you see if you want to dive into the second, third, and fourth move on your own. First move is b7. Great. But you have to be aware of the fact that the big threat is h2. Now let's just make sure I'm really clear here. If you promote to a queen, there's no check, which means they promote with check, and you're going to lose this. No matter where you go, you can pick your favorite square. It's just not going to be a good idea. h2 check, you can try to run up the board. Nope, not going to happen. There's lots of checks, even here. Okay, so pretty much your objective is you can't get checked on a promotion. That's how you have to avoid it. So maybe, just maybe, the thought is move this king up somewhere and then promote. That way you get out of the check. Well, that may sound like a good idea, but if I play king e2, for example, just moving up the board, why can't they just promote? I'm still not going to promote with check. What's the problem? Well, you'll see the main idea, the big idea behind this problem. It all depends on where your king is going. So let me ask you a question, and I'm going to try to ask the question to see if you can find the solution from this question. This king moving forward to any one of these 3 squares sounds like a good idea to get out of the checks. But if I go to d2, how many squares is that controlling? Well, it's controlling all these squares, right? Well, sure, of course, backwards ones as well. But what I mean is how many empty squares is it controlling? And you might say, okay, well, if I go here, I guess I'm controlling this one, even though the knight's there, so I'm not really controlling it. Here and here, I guess, and these ones in the back, so maybe 5. Okay, what about e2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, what about f2? 1, 2, 3, you're not even controlling this one. 4, 5. Okay, so it's kind of a mix. Now, why am I asking that? Well, which one of these 3 squares provides a good front for the king to hold? Okay, what am I talking about? If I play a move like king e2 and they promote, I can promote to a knight and I can nearly mate them. Why? Because the king can play king d5 and I walk them out. Knight c7 check. King has 1 move. Check with the knight. The king has 1 move. Check with the knight. But now the king has 2 moves. They can go to g3, or g4? Okay, well, g3 seems better because you're running away from checks. Nothing wrong with that. g4 walks into another check. So now you have to ask yourself retrospectively, I was on e1 and I played to e2. Maybe if I was on f2, maybe things would have been different. And that is the key to this whole puzzle. That is the crux. Once you realize the value of your king on f2 instead of e2, that's where it all comes together. Because f2 is holding this front. You're protecting this whole third rank. And that's where it is. The move in this position, after the pawn moves up, oops, what did I just do? After the pawn moves up, you play king f2. Great, you're protecting these squares, you're holding things down. Now, what's the point? They promote. Now you have an amazing checkmate. You have promote to a knight. They run out, you check them. They're forced, this is all forced. King e5, you check them again. King f4, you check them again. Now where do they go? They have to run just to where they're forced to. It's the only thing they can do. Check. King h3, take the pawn with check. King h2, and look at this very aesthetic mate. 3 knights, of course 2 of your knights. Just the position here is pretty cool. So that's if they promote to a queen, right? So that's kind of crazy. But look at the instructive point there. The king f2 move is the only move that works. Any of these other 2 moves don't work because they're not holding this front on the third rank. Okay, now you might say to me, but wait a second, Frank. They can just not promote, right? They can just not do that. And you'd be right. Or they can promote to a knight, but that would be a little silly because you could just play king g1 and now you're threatening this and they don't have enough time to bring all this down. So don't promote to a knight if you're playing the black pieces. It can be tempting, right? But not the best idea. Okay, so you play king f2. What is the best move in this position then? If you don't promote as black and you don't want to under promote to a knight, I guess it's still promoting, what do? Well, the computer is saying the best move is knight c3. Now you're looking to support this. Maybe the idea is that if you promote now, I just freed up a new square for my king, right? So now this knight g3 move just changes everything. Because now if I promote to a knight, it's not mate anymore. Crazy. King d5. Check. Let's just look at it really fast. Check. Now I can play king f5. This was not here a moment ago because the knight was here. And now I can actually run away. And I'm good. So black would win in this game. So incredibly, that whole knight mate variation, that's all behind the scenes. That's not going to happen in this puzzle. That's just a sideline. Isn't that amazing? So instead, after knight g3, what is the winning move? Well, there's only one. b8 equals queen. Now you might say again, wait a second here. Can't they just promote as well? And that's true, they can, but they get mated. So if your goal is to promote the pawn, I guess that's okay, but you're trying to win the game. Checkmate ends the game. So what is the best defense here? What's the best try? Well, at this point, it's kind of all the same. King d7, the computer's saying. And if you're like me, I would just play queen takes and just, my goal is just get here, trade it off, push this pawn up the board, simple win. So just to see kind of what that looks like in action, after the king goes to e6, we play knight c7 check. The king tries to run up, simple move, one of these two. I play queen b7 just because it gets out of the way. And what do? If they promote, you just take it. They take, you move, and you just push this up the board. There's no precision required. But the whole thing, the whole puzzle, revolves around this central idea that the king can be walked up the board and just, I don't know if I'm getting the squares right, but you're going to get the idea, just walked up the board and checkmated. It's amazing. So this really simple idea of king f2 creating this front is just so cool to me. I really had to share it. I love this puzzle. I think just the detail is amazing. And even the second try for black, right, making this knight g3 move, hanging in there and saying, hey, if you promote to a knight now, that cool checkmate that you just calculated, Yeah, it doesn't work anymore. Right, super cool. I think it's a nice puzzle. Luckily, you can promote to a queen in this position. I think I can show if it goes to a knight. Maybe you're thinking about that, but that's not anything. You just move away. I have a queen. I'm threatening mate. You run away like this? What are you going to do? This is not a problem at all. Queen e8 is the best move according to the computer. I wouldn't play that move as a human. I'd probably just check and take because I'm not worried about this pawn. But yeah, so that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. As I mentioned, it all helps out so much. But that is it for now. Thank you so much. Bye.